Today we're doing the level up guide, and I'm going to be telling you which tank you guys should be getting for every single level of War Thunder Mobile. For level 1, I recommend starting out with the T-34 1940 platoon. Its armor is quite nice in comparison to the tanks that you will be going up against at rank 1, and as you level up more, you can realize that the armor does really help. You don't have the best penetration, but since you are just beginning, it's better that you have more armor so you can figure out the game as you go. Remember that the T-28E isn't as well armored, and you have to be a little bit more careful with it, but besides that, this platoon is great. The level 2 platoon that I recommend getting is the M4A2. This is because in the M4A2 platoon, the T-14, which is the second vehicle you can get, has a lot of armor that is really strong, and you should be able to use it to bounce many shots from the tanks that you're going to be going up against at rank 2. The M4A4 also has some pretty nice armor against rank 1s, and overall it's just a nice well-rounded platoon. Following on the same track of that, the Avenger platoon is what I'd recommend for rank 3. It's because first you have the Avenger, which has really good penetration but little bit of armor. Then next you have the Churchill, which has a decent bit of armor, not the best penetration though. And then you have the Concept 3, which has a little bit of armor, but it's really fast and has good penetration. Overall, it's a really well-rounded platoon, and that's why I would recommend using it, especially opposed to the Chin Nu 2 because it has little to no armor across all vehicles. For level 4, I'd recommend the M4A176W. It's also a really well-rounded platoon, and the guns you have here are quite good that you'll be able to deal with tanks in the higher ranks easily. At this point in the game, you should be pretty well familiar with how to use your armor, and you should realize that these vehicles aren't the best well armored, but they do have really good guns and overall great penetration statistics. And because of that, I will recommend using this instead of the Comet 1 platoon. Side note, if you still want to stay at rank 3 for a moment, you can still use this platoon, the ABR 1951. However, if you want to level up to rank 4, I would go with the Tiger H1 platoon. When it's angled, it's really good, and it can easily defeat the tanks that you're going to be going up against. And the armor on all of these vehicles, maybe except the anti-air, are overall amazing. Just remember that you do have to angle the Tiger. At level 6, I would recommend going with the M4A3 76W platoon. This is because this platoon has access to the T26E5, and the T26E5 is difficult to deal with pretty much any tank that it's going to be facing. So even if you have a King Tiger coming up against you, they're going to have a difficult time dealing with you. And that's why I prefer using this platoon over the other one. At level 6, I'd recommend using the Black Prince platoon. The Black Prince platoon cannot be easily penetrated by a lot of the tanks in the lower ranks, and the Ratel 90 has access to heat shells, which will easily go through any of the armor that you're going to be going up against, as well as their first two main tanks being really well armored and having great guns. For level 8, I'd recommend getting the Panther F platoon. This is because you have access to really heavy tanks like the Tiger 2H and the Ag Tiger, which can fairly easily deal with pretty much all of the tanks you're going to be going up against beneath it, and it can pretty much do a lot of damage to the ones that are above it in the upper ranks. So it's a really well-rounded platoon, and it has really good firepower and armor. I actually skipped level 9, and I'll tell you how in a moment, but in level 9, I'd recommend getting the T-44 platoon. The armor on it is really strong, and it's difficult to deal with by other rank 6s. The IS-2 1944 isn't that great, but it's okay because you got the T-44 100, which can easily take out tanks you're going to be going up against. Also, the ZSU 57-2 acts as both an anti-air, and in some cases it can help you destroy tanks or other more lightly armored targets than that. Now, level 10 is completely up to you because you can choose to either stay in rank 6 or go on to rank 7. If you choose to stay in rank 6, you'll get access to the FE4202 platoon. Now, back in the day, it was at level 9, not at level 10, but they changed that. The FE4005 is the largest caliber on a tank and has very large high explosive rounds that will obliterate pretty much everything that you're going to go against unless it happens to shoot the track. And the Ratel is the earliest vehicle you can get through research that has an anti-tank guided missile. If you choose to move on to the T-54 1949 platoon, you'll have access to the T-10A heavy tank, which is really good in armor compared to the other vehicles at rank 7, as well as the Object 906, which has high explosive anti-tank rounds that can easily go through most of the enemies you're going to be going up against. The Leopard 1 is a well-rounded tank. It has really good speed, really good penetration. At this point at level 11, armor kind of stops being important, and most of the shells that you can carry will go through your enemy regardless. Also, this platoon does have an ATGM carrier, unlike the other platoon in rank 11. Currently at level 12, the only option you can get is the M60A1 AOS, so I guess you're going to have to just live with that. At level 13, I recommend getting the Leopard A1A1, specifically because all vehicles in this platoon do carry APFSDS that have large caliber cannons, as well as the missile carrier is really sneaky and you can hide it in certain locations where it cannot be shot at all, though you can fire over cover and destroy your enemies easily. At level 14, I recommend getting the ZTZ-88A platoon. All tanks in this platoon either start out with a high explosive anti-tank shell or APFSDS shell, so they have really high penetration. Also because the ZTZ-59D1 has explosive reactive armor, so if you are hit by heat shells or a anti-tank guided missile, it will hit that and explode opposed to going through and destroying your tank. However, that doesn't work on ATGMs with tandem warheads. For level 15, I'd recommend getting the AMX-30 B2B platoon. Both AMX-30s in this platoon have a coaxial 20mm autocannon that will help you easily destroy lightly armored targets, which could be the VCC platoon in the next level, as well as other SPAAs that you're going to be going up against. And because of that, it's really helpful. The Mars 15 also has a 5-second reload and it carries APFSDS, so that's why it's also amazing. For level 16, I would recommend getting the Chieftain Mark 10. The Chieftain Mark 10 has composite armor on the front. Because of that, you can take a lot of hits from heat shells without needing ERA, and it shouldn't damage your tank too much. You also have the ZT3A2, which has access to tandem ATGMs, which have, I think, 1,200 millimeters of penetration. So as long as they hit near the center of mass, they will obliterate any vehicle that you're firing them at. For level 17, I'd recommend getting the MBT-70. The MBT-70 itself may not seem like the greatest choice opposed to the ZTZ-96. However, the best part of this platoon is that in the M3A3 Bradley, you have TOW-2B missiles, so whenever you fire them over an enemy tank, they will explode downwards, sending a jet of hot chemicals directly down into the tank that you're firing over, which completely obliterates it, and it's really easy to use against the AFT-09 because those are extremely lightly armored, and your autocannon that you have as well will help you deal with them, so you don't have to worry about them too much. At level 18, I would recommend getting the Leopard 2K. The Leopard 2K has a faster reload, higher speed, and better penetrating cannon than that of the T-72. That and you have the big light Panzer 57, which has an ATGM on it, so you can deal with the other tanks that you're going to be going up against easily, and it also carries HEVT so you can shoot down planes. Though I should note the T-72A platoon, they did recently add HEVT missiles to the Sturm S, so if you're interested in that, feel free to go with the T-72A platoon. And currently at level 19, we have the Challenger Mark II. We already know that the next platoon that's going to come out in level 19 is the T-72B, but since that's not out already, I'll recommend getting this platoon for now. The Desert Warrior does also have TOW-2B missiles. For a while, I accidentally used them as otherwise normal ATGMs, and I thought firing at the center of mass of the tank was a better idea. It seemed to work just fine either way, but, happens, I guess. The Challenger Mark II and the TTD do have amazing turret armor that allows you to deflect shots from a lot of the enemies that you're going to be going up against, and if it doesn't deflect it, it just heavily makes the damage output of it extremely low. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend getting for levels 1 through 19 currently on War Thunder Mobile. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again in the next one.